The job posting was ordinary enough that it felt insulting. Overnight cleaner, independent contractor, light maintenance, immediate start. The pay was listed as $22 an hour, which in my city is just high enough to make you stop scrolling, and just low enough that you know there's a reason it's available at 9:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I took it because the timing worked, because it was one shift to start, 8 hours on paper, and because the agency didn't want an interview so much as a checkbox. They sent an onboarding link, a background authorization, and a PDF that looked like it had been edited by 3 different people who were all trying to sound like lawyers. By 11:12 p.m., I had a badge on my phone, QR code, my name, a client code, and a short message from the dispatcher. Key in lockbox. Clean, per checklist. Basement door stays locked. Do not open. That last sentence is where the story starts, not because it's spooky, but because it's administrative. It's the kind of instruction that turns a building into a machine and you into the part that absorbs whatever the machine needs to keep running. The address was a low-rise office complex, tucked behind a strip of restaurants. You could tell it had been renovated in phases. New glass entrance, old concrete corners, a security camera mounted so high, it looked like it was trying not to be involved. The parking lot was mostly empty. One sedan near the dumpster. A delivery van idling on the far end, driver asleep or pretending. Inside the lobby, the air had that cooled, sealed smell of buildings that never fully rest. Fluorescent lights, softened by ceiling panels. A muted carpet pattern designed to hide stains and years. I found the lockbox on a utility railing like they said. 4-digit code. The code wasn't in the message. It was in the onboarding PDF, buried under site access. I typed it in. It opened. There were 2 keys and 1 plastic fob. The fob had no label. The keys did. One said, front. The other said, basement, door. I stared at that second label for a little too long, waiting for my brain to do something useful like make a joke. The instruction was, basement door stays locked. Do not open. Yet they'd given me the key, not just any key. The key with the exact name of the thing I was told not to touch. This is where I'm supposed to say I felt a chill. The truth is, I felt annoyed. It's amazing how quickly systems teach you that mystery is just poor management. Within the first hour, I learned the layout. 2 floors. A receptionist area with glass partitions. A break room that smelled faintly like microwaved fish. A corridor of offices with nameplates that had been removed. And a conference room with a long table that reflected the ceiling lights like a calm lake. The bathrooms were clean enough to make my job mostly performative. Wipe, restock, empty bins, initial the sheet. By 12:38 a.m., my phone buzzed with the checklist notification. It wasn't a human message. It was the platform. Task window started. Confirm presence. GPS required. I tapped confirm. The app asked for a photo of the lobby as proof. I took it. Immediately, it asked for a photo of the same lobby from a slightly different angle. Proof of work, but for janitorial labor. Not trust verification. The basement door was in a service hallway behind the break room. Metal, painted beige, scuffed where carts had hit it. A keypad mounted beside it, red LED. The knob had a thick lock cylinder. No window. Above it, a small sign. Authorized personnel only. I didn't go near it at first. Not because I was brave, because I wasn't curious. The thing about night work is you develop a respect for boundaries that aren't yours. You don't touch what isn't on your list. Except the list had a weird line item. Basement stairwell landing, spot check, confirm, secure. It didn't say clean, it didn't say mop. It said confirm, secure, like a guard patrol. I walked to the door at 1:07 a.m. just to do the checkbox honestly. I tried the knob. It didn't budge. I leaned closer to the keypad. The red LED blinked steadily, a slow, patient refusal. I looked for a latch plate, a gap, anything that implied the door had been forced before. It was intact. Confirm secure felt like an insult now. Secure from who? Secure for what? I checked it off anyway. The app accepted it without asking for a photo. By 1:40 a.m., I had finished the obvious tasks. That's when the building started behaving like it had been waiting for me to get bored. The first sign was the elevator. I hadn't used it. I'd taken the stairs because I like knowing I can leave without waiting for a box to cooperate. But at 1:42, I heard the elevator chime. A single polite ding. The kind of sound you stop noticing in daytime and can't stop hearing at night. I stood in the corridor and listened. The elevator doors opened somewhere down the hall. Soft hydraulic sigh. Then silence. No footsteps. No voices. Nothing. The building wasn't empty in the way a dark room is empty. It was empty in the way a warehouse is empty, full of things that could move if told. I walked toward the elevator bay. The doors were closed. The call button wasn't lit. I pressed it. Nothing happened. Then, 2 seconds later, the elevator chimes sounded again. Same ding. Doors opened. There was no one inside. Just stale air and a faint chemical smell, like cleaning solution that had evaporated and returned as a ghost of itself. The elevator displayed B. There was no basement option on the public panel. The buttons were 1 and 2, and a lock icon for service. No B. I glanced at the top display again. It still said B. Then it blinked and changed to 1, like it realized I was looking. That could be a glitch. It could be old wiring. It could be a sensor. The point is not what it was. The point is what it did to the rest of my shift. It made me start treating the building like it had a second set of rules. At 2:05 a.m., my phone buzzed again. Reminder. Basement stairwell landing spot check due in 45 minutes. Reminder. Due. Like it was payroll or parole. I opened the PDF from onboarding to see if I'd missed something. It had a section called Restricted Areas. The basement was listed, along with 2 other spaces. Server Closet 2F and Loading Dock Access. Next to basement. Locked. Do not enter. If door is found open, contact dispatch immediately. That phrasing, if found open, implied it sometimes was. I did another round, mostly to fill time. I wiped surfaces that didn't need wiping. I restocked paper towels that were already full. I started to feel that quiet, low-level panic that comes when you realize you're in a place designed to consume your hours without producing anything you can point to. Then, at 2:31 a.m., I noticed the first contradiction, the sign-in sheet. In the break room, there was a clipboard labeled After Hours Vendors. It had columns, name, company, time in, time out, area. There were entries from the week, delivery, IT, pest control, a handwriting style that looked like people trying to be legible for a camera. There was also an entry for tonight, not mine, someone else's. It said, M. Ortega, company blank, time in 11:58 p.m., area, basement. Time in was before I arrived. That could be real, but it was written in ink that looked fresh, not like it had been sitting since midnight, and the timeout column was empty. I stared at it until my eyes tried to invent a rational reason. Maybe someone from maintenance came in earlier. Maybe the clipboard wasn't updated daily. Maybe it was a prank. Then my phone buzzed. Safety check. Confirm you are alone. The platform had a safety feature. You could press yes or no. If you pressed no, it would connect you to dispatch. I pressed yes. Not because I was sure, because I knew what no would mean. It would mean a report, a call, a pause, questions, maybe blame. Maybe a note in my profile. Unreliable, overreacts. The system's version of fear is inconvenience. At 2:54 a.m., I went to do the basement stairwell landing spot check again because it was due and I wanted the reminder off my screen. This time, I heard something on the other side of the door. Not a voice, not a bang. A small metallic click, like a relay. Then a longer sound, a slow drag, as if something heavy had shifted against concrete. I stepped back, and the knob turned slightly. Not fully, just enough that it made a tiny squeak. I didn't touch it. I stood very still, waiting for the next sound to tell me whether I was imagining it. Nothing. The keypad LED changed. It wasn't red anymore. It was dark. No light. The door was still closed, but the sign that said secure had changed status in a way I couldn't see except by feeling it. like a dog that stops barking because it finally noticed something it can't understand. My phone buzzed again, as if on a schedule it couldn't break. Upload photo, basement door closed, keypad visible. Now it wanted proof. I raised my phone and took the picture. In the photo, the keypad looked normal, dark screen. In real life, it looked like it had died. The upload wheel spun, then failed. No connection. That was another small thing, but it mattered. Because my phone had signal in the lobby. It had signal in the offices. But in this hallway, right by the basement door, it dropped to nothing. I walked 10 steps back toward the break room and refreshed. Signal returned immediately, like the dead zone had a precise boundary. I returned to the door, stood where I'd stood, and watched the signal bars fall again. That's the second contradiction. Not supernatural, architectural, intentional. At 3:10 a.m., the lights in the corridor dimmed. Not off, dimmed to a lower night setting. Motion sensors, energy savings. The building was shifting into the deeper part of its cycle where it assumes no one should be moving. I waved my arms to trigger the sensors. The lights brightened, then dimmed again the moment I stopped moving. So I moved, and they stayed. And while I did that, I noticed something else. The air vent above the basement door was blowing warm air. Everywhere else, the air was cool, but right there, warm. The kind of warm you'd use to keep a pipe from freezing, or to keep something from getting too cold. My brain offered a joke, but it wasn't funny enough to say out loud. At 3:27 a.m., the elevator dinged again. One ding, far away. Then a second ding, closer, as if it had moved floors. I checked the elevator display from the hallway corner. It said B for a second, then returned to 1. I wasn't using it. No one should have been using it. My phone tried to reconnect the photo upload. It finally succeeded at 3:33 a.m. from the break room, not from the hallway. At 3:41 a.m., dispatch called me. A real call. Unknown number. I answered, because if you don't answer, the platform punishes you silently. "Hey," the dispatcher said, and their voice had the calm tone of someone reading from a script while pretending they're not. "Quick check. Your basement door photo came in blank on our end. Can you resubmit?" "It wasn't blank when I took it," I said. "Yeah, sometimes the compression. Just redo it from closer." I looked at the door from where I stood. "It's locked. The keypad's off." Pause. A small paper shuffle, like they were pretending to check something. "Okay. Is the door closed?" "Yes." "Okay. We just need a photo of the door closed with keypad visible." "I already did that." "Yeah, it came in blank." I wanted to say, "Then maybe your system is broken," but I didn't. I said, "I can retake it." "Great," they said. "And just to confirm, you haven't opened it." "No," I said. "You told me not to." "Perfect," they said, as if they hadn't been the ones to plant the contradiction. "We've had confusion there before." "Confusion how?" Another pause. "Different contractors interpret secure differently." That was my third evidence texture in miniature. The way bureaucracies tell the truth by naming it incorrectly. Not a breach, not an incident. Confusion. I walked back toward the basement door with my phone ready. Signal bars dropped again, exactly at the same spot. The building was consistent about its secrets. I took the photo. The screen looked fine. I walked back 10 steps, refreshed. Signal returned. I uploaded. It failed. Upload error. I tried again. Failed again. I turned airplane mode on and off. The app froze. Then it prompted, "Task incomplete. Potential fee, $35 for non-compliance." A fee for a photo. This is the mechanism tightening. The platform doesn't need a monster. It needs a reason you can't leave. I called dispatch back. It rang twice, then went to voicemail. I tried again. Same. At 4:05 a.m., the building's fire panel beeped once. Not an alarm, just a single beep. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew it meant the building noticed something and decided not to tell me. I walked to the lobby to see if the panel had a message. It did. Supervisory Zone B2. Zone B2. The basement had become a letter and a number. There was also a small printed sticker on the panel. Do not reset. Call monitoring. Call monitoring. Another system behind the system. I stood there listening to the HVAC hum and realized I had reached a point of no return without anything dramatic happening. The ordinary exit routes were vanishing. No dispatch response, app threatening a fee, signal dead zone near the door, and now a building system flagging something I wasn't authorized to handle. At 4:18 a.m., I heard footsteps. Not in the hallway. Above, on the second floor. Slow steps, spaced like someone walking carefully to avoid making noise, which is a funny thing to do in a building where the only person awake is the one person you don't want to meet. I froze, listening. The steps paused, then continued. A chair creaked, a drawer slid, then silence. I checked the after-hours vendor's clipboard again. M. Ortega, still there. No timeout. I went to the second-floor stairwell and looked up. The door at the top was closed. The emergency bar on it was scuffed like it got used. The little window showed nothing but darkness. I didn't go up. I stayed where I was, because if you go up and meet someone, you're forced into a different kind of story, the kind with confrontation, blame, and uncertainty you can't document. Instead, I did what the system had trained me to do. I looked for evidence that could be filed. I opened the cleaning app and went to Site Notes. There was a section called Incident Report. Optional. Optional was a lie. Optional reports become mandatory the moment something goes wrong and people need to point at a timestamp. I started typing, basement door keypad, inactive, at approx 2:54 a.m. No signal in hallway. Platform upload, failing. Fire panel supervisory zone B2, at 4:05 a.m. I hit save. The app said, offline, will sync later. Of course it would. At 4:42 a.m., dispatch finally texted, try taking photo in lobby and upload. That didn't make sense. How would a photo taken in the lobby show the basement door? But it wasn't about truth. It was about a file being filled with something, anything, that allowed the system to move on. I replied, cannot. Door in no signal zone. They replied, can you open door to get closer? There it was. The hidden bargain put into a single line. I stared at it. Basement door stays locked. Do not open, they had said. Now they were asking me to open it to make their app happy. I typed, you instructed not to open. I will not open. They didn't reply. At 5:03 a.m., the elevator dinged again, and the doors opened on their own. I watched from the corridor. Empty car. Display flickered B, then 1. Then it stayed open longer than normal, like it was waiting. And in that moment, it clicked for me, not as a horror revelation, but as a systems revelation. This building wasn't haunted in the traditional sense. It was segmented. It had spaces that normal humans weren't supposed to occupy, and systems designed to manage that segmentation. Key labels that contradicted instructions, dead zones that prevented documentation, checklists that forced you back to the boundary, and platform penalties that encouraged you to violate the very rules they gave you. The mechanism was dependency. They didn't need to lock me in physically. They needed to lock my income, my rating, my future jobs to compliance. At 5:19 a.m., I heard the basement door click again, more distinct this time. The knob turned a fraction. The latch didn't release. Then the keypad lit up red again, as if it had rebooted. My phone buzzed. Final reminder. Basement door photo required. Task window ends in 41 minutes. The building and the platform were coordinating by accident or design. Either way, I was the one in between. I did something that felt humiliating and practical. I took the basement door key out of my pocket and held it up to the overhead camera in the hallway, like I was proving to a silent judge that I had the ability to do the forbidden thing. Then I walked to the lobby where I had signal and took a photo of the key in my hand. I uploaded it under basement door photo. The platform accepted it. Because the platform didn't care what it was seeing. It cared that a file existed with an image attached. Proof of work, not proof of reality. At 5:44 a.m., the fire panel stopped showing supervisory. It cleared itself. No alarm, no explanation. The building decided whatever had happened in Zone B2 was finished, or at least contained. At 6:02 a.m., I got another text from dispatch. Thanks. All set. Please drop keys in lockbox. No apology. No follow-up. No, "Are you okay?" Just all set. When I left, the sky had that thin pre-dawn gray that makes everything look like it's still deciding whether it exists. I sat in my car and looked back at the building and tried to pin down the feeling. It wasn't fear in the cinematic sense. It was the awareness that I had been maneuvered. Later that day, because I couldn't let it go, I did the kind of digging that modern life makes possible. Not heroic, just searchable. Property records showed the building had changed ownership in the last 5 years. The sale price was in the range of $8, $10 million, which meant investors, which meant cost cutting, which meant the night shift being outsourced to people like me. A forum thread for contractors had a post about that same address. No direct quotes here, just the shape of it. Multiple people mentioning basement checklist, no signal, weird elevator, and dispatch pushing you to open even though rules say don't. Someone referenced insurance requirement. Restricted area must be checked, but not entered. Someone else said they want a photo to prove you didn't go in, which makes no sense until you realize photos aren't for truth. They're for liability. The most telling piece was a screenshot someone described from a support ticket. Task cannot be completed due to connectivity limitations near restricted access door. Request alternative verification. The response summary. Noted. Contractor advised to attempt from different location. Attempt from different location. Always the same language. Not fix the system. Not acknowledge the contradiction. Just ask the human to bridge it with their body. So here's what we can say for sure. The locked basement door was not just a door. It was a boundary the institution needed to exist. Whatever was down there, equipment, records, damage, hazards, things they couldn't afford to remediate, it didn't matter as much as the fact that the boundary had to be maintained without being examined. And the hidden mechanism wasn't a presence. It was a loophole. Outsource responsibility to a contractor. Demand documentation that can't be produced honestly. Then apply penalties that push the contractor to violate rules. So the institution can later claim the violation was individual, not structural. That's why the elevator said B. Not because it wanted me, because the building system still recognized the basement as a functional level, even when the human interface pretended it didn't exist. The modern parallel is simple and uncomfortable. We live inside systems that ask for proof in ways that make real proof impossible. Apps want photos, signatures, GPS pings, confirmations, little rituals that create the appearance of control. When the ritual fails, the system doesn't adapt. It pressures the human to perform the ritual anyway, even if that means stepping into the one place you were told not to go. If you've ever been trapped by a checkbox, you already understand the horror, not the jump scare kind. The kind where you realize your choices are curated. Comply and risk yourself, or refuse and risk your livelihood. I never opened that basement door. And that's the part that still bothers me. Because the story doesn't require me to open it. The story requires that the system wanted me to want to open it. And if you're wondering what happened to M. Ortega on the sign-in sheet, the most honest answer is accounts conflict. It could have been a leftover from a previous night. It could have been someone inside. It could have been a name written as a placeholder, a bureaucratic fiction to justify why that basement checklist exists at all. What matters is the pattern. The paperwork always includes someone for the basement, because the basement is always being accounted for, even when it's never being addressed. If this kind of story works for you, quiet dread, documented contradictions, and the machinery behind the fear, please like the video and subscribe. It helps more than you'd think, and it makes sure the next report finds you.